This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
This is your channeling your inner rage leader fan radio network.
What do you mean?
I don't know. And KFAN, that's KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 5 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock Central Daylight Saving Time. Bumper to Bumper Show is back. It's a live, local, on-the-air edition. We're on the World Wide Web, as we like to say in the business. We're on FM 100.3 The Fan, and we trust that however or whenever you are listening to today's broadcast, that it will, at one level or another, change your life. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host the program. Guardsy produces the show. We're going the distance today. That means we are out halfway through the 6 o'clock hour, 6:30, as they say in the business. We are delighted to announce that we finally have, during the Wolves-Warriors second-round series, a game that starts the game 2 here in town at a time that makes it make sense for us to broadcast from Target Center.
We're back?
Thursday.
The Skyway Cage?
Not for Tuesday. Not for tomorrow night's game, but for Thursday night's game, which I believe is a 7:30 tap, which means it'll probably be closer to like 7:55.
Probably.
We will, I assume you will be too, at the Cage.
That's the plan.
For what should be a very power-packed broadcast. We've had, that's been the biggest challenge to getting back to the Cage, right, is the number of late games in particular. And even with the Minnesota Wild, they're out, of course. They've already been eliminated, but same thing where we'd say, well, let's do a show from the X.
Yep.
Well, the game starts at 10:15 Central Time.
Right.
And you're off the air at 6:30.
Yeah.
So what's that going to accomplish? And the answer is really not much.
And they put up hotels and restaurants in the best areas where we used to do.
They did. That's a good point. That's
the
part
shows
of it
on location.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
A lot of challenges.
That's very, very true, Davey. I do want to talk, though, about, look, we got the matchup. Let's be honest. We got the matchup we wanted. We absolutely got the matchup that is, I don't have to tell anybody in our audience, is just replete with rich storylines. We're going over the course of today's show to attempt to rank them, because I think there's a couple sneaky ones that people don't spend as much time on that we can discuss, and then there's the obvious ones too. And a lot of them have to do with rage. Whether, in the case of Jimmy Butler, I don't think it's organizational rage or certainly player rage, because it's a completely different team than the one that Butler walked out on. In Butler's case, I think it's more fan rage, okay? But I think there should be some rules there about channeling your inner rage properly. But the other one is sneakier and potentially more concerning and devastating, because it doesn't involve fans. It involves players. It involves members, important members of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Because, again, if fans become so obsessed with one player that they almost seem to be missing the forest for the trees, I don't really think it has much impact on the way your favorite team performs. It might get annoying. You might say, okay, we get it. You're going to boo Butler every time he touches the ball. We're happy for you. You know, it's game 6. Let's move on. Let's make the goal not so much hating Jimmy Butler and more about eliminating Jimmy Butler and advancing back to the conference finals for the second consecutive year. But in the case of Day-Day, Draymond Green, the ability to channel inner rage, I think, is much more important, much more crucial, and might well tell the tale on whether your Minnesota Timberwolves, favored to knock off the Warriors in advance, actually consummate that act, follow through by knocking them off. Because, in all honesty, it's hard to Draymond, and this has been part of Draymond's genius. There's no question. It becomes very hard I'm talking about for players, opponents, to not get drawn into what he wants to draw you into, to not get sucked in to the day-to-day vortex. And then that's when he gets that big smile on his face.
Yep.
And he says, got another one. Got him. Got him exactly where I want him. Got him. They're acting. If they don't take my bait, or they channel their inner rage better by exacting basketball revenge, then what do I have left? That's part of the day-to-day identity, is it not? And he's played that role,
a huge part of it,
very effectively. And I think that's where the bad blood is quite deep, because if you recall, it's not just that Day-Day, was it last season? When did he have Rudy in a chokehold?
I think it was last season.
Last season,
yes.
Right? Regular season.
Yep, Carl was still on the team, but that was last season in the regular season.
That's it.
Yep.
I got some good Carl stuff for you later, too. But nevertheless, bad scene, bad look. Ultimately, Day-Day, how many games did he get suspended for? I don't even remember.
It was a while.
I think
it may have even been indefinite. Yeah.
But it didn't end there. It continued into the postseason, if you'll recall, in that Day-Day, for reasons I still don't understand, ended up getting a semi-permanent seat at the Inside the NBA TNT studio table with Charles and Shaq and Kenny and Ernie. In fact, what did they do? Did they just
add a chair?
They add a chair, and the space between them is not as big. Is
exactly right.
That's what they did.
Yeah,
and he made it. Day-Day, Draymond Green made it his obsession to find any opportunity to mock and ridicule Rudy Gobert. And given that the Wolves got knocked off in 5 games once they did get to the conference finals, there was a lot of red meat for him. And there was the isolation play involving Luka Doncic. Feels like that's like 5 years ago now, but it was fresh then. And sadly for me, a panel that has sort of distinguished itself by not automatically agreeing with somebody else in the panel, did nothing but they seemed to
they went
jump
right along
on
with
board.
it.
They went right along. They never challenged. I said, Draymond, what is this? Is this getting a little personal for you? I don't think anybody ever did that. And it got bad enough that during that we won 1 game in that series, the Dallas series. And TNT people wanted to bring, I'm presuming Anthony Edwards, but in any case, they wanted to bring a Timberwolf up for the post-game stuff. And they all refused. And what we learned later was that was purposeful. They said, okay, you want to do it this way with our guy, then we're just not going to participate in your circus. And so I think it's pretty deep. Now, I don't recall any particular incidents this regular season. Do you?
I think
involving Day-Day and Rudy, or am I forgetting something?
Well, I don't know about Rudy, but the only one, and you get the years mixed up. The one that's making the rounds the last couple of days, certainly since they clinched last night, was when he had a hard foul on Edwards. And Edwards, I think that was there. Edwards was kind of annoyed at how hard the foul was, and Draymond started talking back to him. And Anthony at the line basically said, "No one's worried about you, man. No one's worried about you."
Right.
That exchange has gotten a lot of play in the last 12 hours or so. But in terms of like a year ago, no.
So, but the moral of the story is, again, you have to properly channel the rage. You can't let it consume you. You can't get so hung up on got to get back at Day-Day that you forget the goal is advance for the second consecutive year to the conference finals. That's where you do have to be careful. And, you know, I listened earlier today, the former Pacers great, Antonio Davis, a very good role-playing big man, you know, enforcer, rebounder, not a great scorer, but a really nice basketball player back. It was the Davis twins. It was Antonio Davis and Dale Davis.
I remember
Reggie
it well.
Miller team.
My childhood.
And that's what he talked about. He said, it's you can't play his game. You have to stand up for yourself, but you can't play his game. Because if you go too far down play the road playing his game, he has you. He's got you. And he said that's not just the case with Day-Day. He said it used to happen with him and Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
A couple of other. He even said Gary Payton, a guard, said that you cannot get stuck in that vortex. It has to be, the message has to be, try to abuse him when you can. That's a little extra, juice if you're able to do that in the course of doing the things that give this team the best chance to proceed to the next round.
Among my notes for the series, and we did not talk before the show about this, does Draymond make it a circus, and are the Wolves mature enough to deal with it? Those were my two questions. I think we know. I mean, I have more questions, but I think we know the answer to the first one. I probably should change it to how big of a circus will Draymond try to make it, especially when things aren't going well for the Warriors at times.
That's where he can muck it up some more.
He and Jimmy just did it a couple of games ago where they had like 15 reviews in a row. Like, those two are going to try to play every mind game in the book. And what are you going to do about it? Because as we know, and as everybody knows, the Wolves also run hot.
Here's another mistake. See, 6'5" guy. Draymond Green's game is complete trash. He can't even put the ball on the floor anymore. He wouldn't even be effective in a high-level pickup game at Lifetime. Old and slow, and will be completely exposed in this series.
Not true.
That's another trap. You fall into that trap, the Wolves are dead. He can't move as well as he used to. There's no question about that. But if you don't understand the role he plays that's in a basketball sense that goes beyond all this other nonsense, the little things that he does, the degree to which Steph Curry revolves off of everything that Day-Day does in their offense, you're delusional. You're falling into the wrong trap. He is not a trash player. He can do trash things.
Definitely did last night.
He is not a trash player.
Well, and Şengün, your guy, who to me remains one of the most overrated players ever.
Yeah, he
neutered that poor guy.
He looked overrated.
Defeated, absolutely defeated. And that was because of Day-Day.
Well, every time, and it was he couldn't finish a play, and then you could tell he was conquered. He'd do the old arms in the air, and it was like, and I don't even know if he was always complaining about refs. It was just more like,
I can't believe I'm missing it.
I can't believe it. I can't score on this guy, or I can't score on the Golden State Warriors.
The Fan and BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. Enter the keyword money. That's the first keyword of the afternoon at KFAN.com. KFAN.com and make the keyword.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Definitely going back to the playoffs and going further in the playoffs to go versus the Warriors. I want to play the Warriors. I want to get to the Warriors. Wherever they at, I want to get to them.
That's why the Warriors so much.
I mean, because Draymond talks so much trash. That's pretty much the only reason.
Yeah, that is a soundbite that has surfaced since the Warriors took care of the Rockets in Game 7 very, very quickly. It is, the interesting thing about Edwards is that whenever he talks about these sorts of grudges, or I want to take that, he's always smiling.
Yeah.
So I think to that extent, that's a good sign that he is going to be able to channel, if it is rage in his case, he's going to be able to channel it well. But I got to tell you, man, it is astonishing how much everything can change on the basis of a single game or a single series. Example, I read the pieces that were written after Game 6 out of San Francisco, California, on the state of the Warriors. Game 6 was their chance to wrap up. They were up, they'd been up 3-1 in the series, and then they'd lost the next 2 in a row. Game 5 badly in Houston, Game 6 horribly in the fourth quarter, and in San Francisco. And at that point, the obits were being written. They look tired. They look suddenly old. They look like they've run out of answers. As good as the Buckets acquisition was, it just looked like there's not much left. And these young kids with the fresh legs have figured some things out. And then what happens? Game 7. And we'll talk about this with Mitch Lawrence at 3:30. Johnny's going to be with us at 5:30. Is this the classic case of, well, when you get to Game 7, kids hyperventilate sometimes. They haven't been through it. They don't know how to channel forget inner rage, just channel their professionalism and to not panic when things go poorly. Because you can't have it's as dramatic a reversal from game to game as you're going to see. Now, what's interesting is through much of the fourth quarter, the Golden State offense was awful.
It was.
But it didn't matter because Houston's offense was even worse. But now it's gone from, well, the Buckets experiment is kind of cool, but in the end, they're going to get eliminated in the first round, to, well, why not Golden State? Why can't they keep going? Similarly, and this is a media problem, I think it's a problem in our industry to a certain extent. On the way in to sermons, I'm listening to commentary about the Lakers in the wake of the Wolves taking them out in 5. And this is the tone of the coverage and the commentary. Well, I don't know what the Lakers are going to do. They're stuck. They've got no path forward. Luka was exposed. They don't have much depth. LeBron's 40 going on 50. And they don't really have any other moves they can make. They're done. Now, compare that to 2 weeks earlier, before the Wolves-Lakers series started. I still can't believe what an idiot the Mavericks were for trading him.
They gave him away.
He's one of the 5 best offensive players in basketball. Why can't the Lakers, get something going? Why can't they make a run this year? How do we get to these extremes? Because if you recall, the smart money when the Luka trade was made, what was the smart money? Even out of LA was, look, we know we're not a finished product after this trade. But you get them when you can get them, right? And you worry about the rest later. But because the Lakers, really, you could argue, overachieved with 50 victories, it was, well, you know what? They're going to make a run right now. And then when they don't, honestly, and I know these are some of the same individuals who were so high on the Lakers and Luka before the series began that they couldn't control themselves. How do you go from that to they have no answers? I have no idea what they're going to do. How are they even going to find a way to build this thing around him? It's embarrassing that we lose our minds to the degree that we do. And we saw, like I said, bits and pieces of it with Golden State. Now, as we've said before, the players always have the last word, and in the end, the Warriors did. And in the end, and this is I think one of the most important messages for the Wolves. Steph Curry can miss his first 17 shots and still beat you. He doesn't care how many he misses. He knows his legacy is secure. He also knows that sooner or later he's going to start hitting some shots, right? And that's, I guess, in part what we saw. That and a little bit of help in the first half from a guy named Buddy Hield.
Seriously.
Who you could say we're not previewing Wolves Warriors without Buddy Hield's performance, especially in the first half. And by the way, Draymond's performance. The guy who couldn't score.
Had a couple threes.
I think he had 8 of their first 12 points, including a couple of threes. But I guess it's just the nature of it, right? In the media age in which we live, that there's no ability to say, look, yeah, the Lakers didn't look good against the Wolves. Part of that, I think, is the Wolves made them look as bad as they looked. But part of it was they finally got exposed for what at the time of the trade most people thought were still their weaknesses. How is that? How does that? You go from that to, well, I don't even know why anybody would pay attention to the Lakers at this point. Luka's going to gain another 40 pounds this offseason, and there's no way he's ever going to figure it out, and there's no way they're going to be able to build a thing around him. I mean, the perspective on this stuff seems to be lacking. And again, how many national media people made it sound like it was a slam dunk certainty that the Lakers are going to knock off the Wolves?
Pretty much all of them.
And many of them saying in 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Not even that it was going to be, well, they'll probably go the distance, probably be a 7-game series. So there you have it.
And now those same media people all have the Wolves winning the next series.
That's what we said. It's 2 straight years, right? We went from, going into the Phoenix series, well, they can't beat them because they haven't beat them in the regular season. We sweep them.
They got run out of the gym. Rudy's going to get played off the floor.
And then we take care of Denver, and in the way we do, and like you say, we're the team everybody's paying attention to. Now that we're the team that knocked off the Lakers, we're the team that, 5 games, maybe 4. Golden State does not even have any kind of a chance. So it does turn on a dime. I guess the key for team members and coaches is some measure of restraint regarding all of that and not paying attention to almost any of it. To that end, if you have questions, not just on, I don't want to just talk about Wolves to this point and Wolves Warriors preview. I do want to talk about some other developments from the weekend in the NBA playoffs, not to mention 2 game ones tonight, right? But one on the Eastern Conference side, one on the Western Conference side. We're going to get into all of that and more. If you have questions for Mitch Lawrence, the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is available to you, and that number, as always, is 64686. Text already coming in. Timberwolves can also miss 43 pointers and win. Let Curry miss 17 in a row. We will be fine. I don't know that I said we would.
I'd still guard him.
I would still attempt to guard him. I still, you have to properly respect what he can do as a basketball player. Don't get haughty. Don't get cocky. What's that saying? Fat cats, they often.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Get slow. Wolves will open tomorrow night at home, Target Center, against the Golden State Warriors. More on that later, and certainly we'll get to that with our next guest, Mitch Lawrence. Although, Mitch, as we welcome you back into the discussion, I want to start with some other series, some other developments in the National Basketball Association. And more importantly, I want to start with what Garzi and I were just talking about before the break. How do we get your business? Well, it used to be your business. It's not, you don't write as much as you once did, but I think your business is in trouble because we have gone on the basis of one series in which the Wolves knocked off the Lakers pretty convincingly in 5 games. We've gone from before the series, Lakers are the cat's meow, the Mavericks are idiots. There's nowhere to go but straight up, and the Lakers are going to be a power starting this season, this postseason, forever. And then they lose to the Wolves in 5, and I'm hearing Lakers, they're done. They have no options. They're not going to be able to get better around Luka. Luka is going to gain another 50 pounds this offseason. So whatever happened to a little nuance in this thing? Whatever happened to have some kind of middle ground? We've gone from 0 to 10 on the Lakers overnight.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people were saying that about the Lakers, but if you looked at that team, you could see them getting picked off by Minnesota or other teams because, you know what? They were really a mirage defensively, I think.
Sure.
They weren't very good. And they lack size. And then, when J.J. Redick, decides he's going to go small and stay with that and not play Jackson Hayes.
How'd that go?
I mean, that was just a debacle. I mean, listen, he needed to, he's not very humble, we know, and he's got the arrogant part of coaching down.
The Dookie part? You're saying the Dookie part. He's got that down, right, Mitch?
Yeah. So hopefully he learned from that. But we all knew that this was a flawed roster, too.
Exactly.
And then, I thought that the Timberwolves presented all kinds of matchup problems for them. And they were really the better team. And let's face it, we're talking about a separation of one game between the third seed and the sixth seed. Yes. So, you can't draw a lot about that. But listen, I want to see if Luka's going to be the guy who gets in professional shape or championship shape in the off season.
Yes.
That's what everybody in LA has to hope. And, LeBron's going to be back for one more year because we all know he's not going to walk away. He's not going to do a little release like Tim Duncan back in the day when he just announced, through the Spurs, I'm retiring. LeBron's going to want to be showered with gifts and acclaim and stuff as he does his NBA tour. LeBron over America. So he'll be back, and we'll see what kind of bigs they can add, what they actually do with that roster. So it's going to be interesting, but they were flawed.
Yeah, well, my point is that's what most people understood when the deal was made. It was they didn't make this deal, the Luka deal, to go for it right now. They got this deal knowing we got to build around him, we got to get bigs, we got to do a lot of other things, but he's available now. So if he's offered to us, we're going to take him now. And that's, I think, what was understood at the time, that there are a lot of flaws with this club. And yet, Mitch, as we got closer to the start of the playoffs, nationally, ESPN, nobody picked against the Lakers, many of them picking the Lakers to sweep the series and win in 5.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of it has to do with the brand, the Lakers brand. Right. LeBron is still a lot of people think LeBron's still, and he is in some ways the face of the league, although you've got a lot of great rising stars like Anthony Edwards, established, these guys are already established stars. You've got the old guard, you've got the new stars, but a lot of people still think that LeBron is the guy when he's not, clearly not. And so that just has to do with reputation. Those picks were based, I think a lot of people must have picked them off a reputation when they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That's just that's the way it goes with, listen, everything on, everything, a lot of stuff on radio, it's serious, a lot of stuff on the NBA, you constantly are talking about the Laker organization.
True.
And, people can't get, that's something that just never goes away.
I want to get your thoughts on Wolves Warriors, that matchup, in a minute, but let's talk about what's going on tonight. You got 2 game ones tonight, one in the East and one in the West. I want to start with the Knicks and the Celtics. And I've been looking forward to this particular visit with you because I trust your basketball acumen, and I'm trying to figure out if I've missed something or you agree with me. So in New York, one of the storylines coming out of the last series, which was a struggle with Detroit, right? Ultimately, they got it done, but it was not easy, was, Cat disappears too much, and if they have the disappearing Cat, they have no chance this next round. I don't disagree with that, but I thought they're in New York, they leave out, for me at least, one very crucial component. Brunson, as tremendous a clutch player as he proved it again with that 3 that he hit, monopolizes the ball in stretches, Mitch, where Cat can literally go 12 straight possessions without barely even touching it. So why is that? Right. Why is there such a blind spot on Brunson in New York in that regard, or what do you see?
Well, the thing about Brunson is, and there's a debate in New York, who's the number one athlete in New York? It's either Aaron Judge or Brunson right now.
Right.
And that's how much Brunson's stock has been raised since they basically stole him from the Mavericks. I mean, Mavericks fans down here, they are apoplectic about Luka, and a lot of them are still like, we had Brunson at one point too. Now what I don't like about the Knicks is that offense with Brunson reminds me a lot of the way that James Harden and the Rockets played back in, 17 or 18?
It's a great analogy.
Golden State to 7. Yep. It was like James Harden was going 1-on-5 the whole time.
Yep.
And a lot of Knicks fans, especially the older Knicks fans who remember the days of the championship teams, we're going back 50 years, constant ball movement and nobody's hogging the ball. It's not sticking. It's, the way they play sometimes now, it's ridiculous. And yeah, you're right. What's Karl Anthony Towns supposed to do? Steal the ball from his teammates to go get shots? It's a little ridiculous. He's got to get the ball. And I will say this about the Detroit series, because I don't think I've been on since. It still amazes me that you have a guy who was really, recently named, I think 2 days before, whatever, the clutch player of the NBA. Yet J.B. Bickerstaff decided, well, I'm just going to cover him with one player who's like 22. I'm not going to force. And here's the deal. Karl Anthony Towns has fouled out. He's on the bench.
That's true. Good point.
He's watching. Yeah. So, my thing was, as I'm watching it, I'm going to double the ball, force Brunson to give it up, and I'm going to live with either Josh Hart or OG Anunoby or Miles McBride or, somebody else beating me. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And Brunson made a great shot. But anyway, Detroit's got to live. That was a bad, to me and a lot of other people, that was one of the, and very, very, nobody really talked about it. But anyway, but now Brunson is the king of New York. So very few Knicks fans, especially younger fans, they just in love with the fact that the guy is clutch and he seemingly can score on anybody. He's got, the footwork of a ballerina and all this stuff. Some of it is true, but he does ball hog a lot. And, this is a series coming up where there's not one thing that the Knicks do better than the Celtics. You can't name me one thing, whether it's offensively or defensively. And the thing that really has hurt the Knicks a lot this year, and we'll see if it comes to fruition here, is, Dan, they are a woeful team defending the three.
Yeah.
What do the Celtics do better than anybody else? Make and shoot threes. So this series could end in 4. The Knicks are a gutty team. They might get a game out of it. I don't know if they can get 2, but all the matchups and everything that I look at about the way they play and about who's starting for Boston, and, they're all seem to be, Drew Holiday's going to play. He's healthy, apparently. I don't see any way in the world the Knicks get more than a game out of this. And I think the Celtics, the way the other series is going now with Cleveland, the Celtics must be thinking also, we take care of the Knicks. We might be getting Indiana again. We're right back to the finals.
Are the Pacers the most underrated team in this postseason?
Most underrated team? I missed the last part.
In the postseason. No, in this, maybe that long, right.
They are, nobody talks about the Pacers. Listen, they've got some really good players. They don't have the transcendent star. They don't have the big name. Really, when have they ever had that? Like, never. Like, Reggie Miller was their biggest guy.
Right.
But the way, and here's the thing that's amazing about them is that they were a really bad defensive team last year. But this year, they're kind of like respectable.
Yeah, right.
I think they're up to 13th. But the thing about the playoffs is, listen, Orlando was a top defensive team. They're out. The Clippers were a top defensive team. They're out. And they could have won that series against Denver. But the problem for some of these teams, and it's not the Indiana doesn't have this problem, is you got to have people on the floor who can score at all times. And they put Rick Carlisle puts guys out on the floor, and they can score and they can get baskets. And so they put a lot of pressure on you. And Cleveland's now banged up. They've got a bunch of people who are hurt. Of course, Darius Garland didn't play. I don't know what the deal is with that. I guess the toe is really a problem, but I was kind of surprised he didn't play. And now DeAndre Hunter's hurt. Evan Mobley's hurt. They're all questionable. It's like, and you're going against a team that can basically score any time. So they've done a great job, Indiana, but nobody talks about them. Nobody talks about them. In the East, everybody talks about, you talk about Boston, you talk about Cleveland, you talk about the Bucks because of Giannis, you talk about the Knicks because of Brunson and Tom Thibodeau. And when the Knicks win, it's the players, and when they lose, it's Tom. And then, you talk about what's going on in Philadelphia and the disaster there. Nobody talks about Indiana.
No, they are fun to watch. They are a very fun, and they got to the conference finals last year, correct?
Yeah.
As I recall, it shouldn't be forgotten either.
No, and you know what? Because they beat the Knicks in a 7th game at Madison Square Garden, where your boy Dante DiVincenzo hit like 9 threes, but nobody remembers that.
That's true.
In New York. But yeah, they're going to be I said earlier about, the Celtics will look and the Celtics will know if Indiana's there and they're there in the conference finals. They know they're not going to overlook them, but they also know that, listen, their ways, they especially, I think, have Indiana's number.
So from your seat, do the Warriors present a more formidable challenge to the Wolves than the Lakers did? Size up this matchup.
Yeah, I think so. I think now I'm not going crazy like people today were talking about how, well, I tell you what, Golden State, wow, Game 7 on the road. They really locked up that Houston offense. Houston's offense is terrible.
Yeah, it is.
I think we all saw that. We knew that. And that's why Kevin Durant has been linked to them. You're going to have other, Giannis will be linked to them in a possible trade. Their offense was just without rhyme or reason, helter-skelter. They have just so many problems in terms of the half court. I read a great tweet. I don't know if this was a fan who sent this out or a member of the media who said last night's game, every time the Rockets scored a basket, it was like a minor miracle. And that's why when you're watching, you're going, my God, these guys.
Yeah, you're right.
So now, Golden State, to me, is going to be a tougher matchup for Minnesota because, listen, Curry, Lakers don't have anybody like Curry, and the Lakers don't have anybody like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler plays so much better than a lot of people just with his head. He doesn't look to shoot.
Yep.
His passing is phenomenal, his playmaking. So right then and there, plus you have Steve Kerr versus J.J. Redick. So you've got a guy who's won championships, who's been through the wars. I mean, this is a much tougher matchup for Chris Finch in terms of adjustments. Where they have the edge, the major edge is size.
Yes.
Minnesota. And, I don't think there's anybody on Golden State who can take Anthony Edwards. I don't think Jimmy Butler can. There's certainly Curry can't. I don't know what they're going to do with Anthony Edwards. He could be set up for a big series. And Minnesota's just bigger, more, they longer, athletic, and I know Houston was that in a lot of ways, but they know how to get things done offensively versus what we saw. All credit to Houston for being the number 2 seed.
Right.
But let's face it, they were lousy offensively.
What about I got a text from Rick saying that the Wolves have no physical enforcer. Draymond Green is going to take them apart mentally and physically. What about the day? What is the Draymond Green factor at this point in his career?
He's a he'll be a factor. He was a factor last night. He basically he realized what happened in that Game 6 debacle, and that really, that's really going to catch up with Golden State like tomorrow night. They could have had a few days off if they finished them off right, and they had to play the extra game, and so. But he atoned. He came out and said, "I really screwed up in Game 6. I look at what I did. I had to be better in Game 7." He played a marvelous Game 7, as did a lot of their players. And then Curry came on late. And Buddy Hield, of course, was
ridiculous,
out of his mind. Yep. Nobody expected that. But Draymond Green will be a factor. He'll try to get under people's skin. We all know what his MO is.
Yep.
He gets away with a lot of murder. He gets away with a lot with the officials versus what other guys can do. It drives people nuts. It drives opposing fans nuts. And I'm sure he'll try to get under Rudy Gobert's skin. And listen, he played some great defense, individual defense against Şengün.
He did, yeah.
But, hey, listen, he's been through the wars. He cost him a title. I always think about that with Cleveland, what he did to get suspended. But in terms of his prowess, it's formidable out there, setting the defense, running things in the offense, although Jimmy does a lot of that now. The thing is, we all question, and he came out last night and he shot the ball well, but really when the chips are down, he's not the guy you want shooting if you're Steve Kerr. It's going to be Steph Curry and maybe Buddy Hield. Who knows? Yeah.
So who you pick? Who will you pick in this series?
I'm picking the Wolves. It's going to be, to me, I can't see it going past 6.
Okay.
I can't see a 7th game, maybe 5.
Interesting.
I think one of the things is Wolves are rested. Golden State, the more they play, these older teams, guys like Curry, advanced age, you don't want to play extra games, which they ended up doing in the first round. That could catch up with them here. And we'll see how they respond. But they'll be tough. There's no question. But I think Minnesota's a better team by far.
You know, it's interesting because the guy who sort of emerged in this series, the Lakers series, was Randall. You know, Randall seemed to be a very imperfect fit for much of the season. He gets hurt, kind of comes back seemingly after an epiphany, and becomes more of the guy that I was clamoring for all year, a point forward, a guy who wasn't as consumed with getting himself 30. More that, okay, I might still get 20 to 25 on a given night, but I'll do other things. I can pass. I can break people down. I can be a really effective point forward. And he was terrific in the Lakers series, among other things, Mitch, being a little bit of that enforcer, because he does have, as you know, some muscle to his game. He's got some bully to his game, and it seemed to be very effective against the Lakers.
You know, he wasn't a good – one of the knocks against him in New York in his years there was, you know, playoffs, he was a big disappointment for Knicks fans. But he's turned that around, and you raise a good point about the enforcer stuff. There will be times in this series coming up where he and Draymond Green will have to be separated. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Julius Randle, he's not backing down from anybody. And you know what? That's what the Knicks miss.
Well,
This team now, he and DiVincenzo are hard-ass types. And Tom Thibodeau type guys, whereas they took on Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, and those aren't those type of guys. They're viewed as being softer,
a little finessey
guys, not hard-nosed, not diving on the floor. That's what the Knicks, the Knicks fans, there's all kinds of, they're conflicted in so many ways. A lot of Knicks fans want them to get swept because they want Tom fired. Okay?
Yes.
Which is absurd, but that's the way they want it. They think they can, there's another coach who can take them to a next level type of thing. And then you have other fans who are still upset that they broke up the team because they're not nearly as good defensively, and it's a softer team. And there are other fans who are just, smitten with Brunson, don't like Karl Anthony. Knicks fans, it's just a weird thing because a lot, and there are fans who think that they can actually somehow beat Boston, that they match up well. I don't see that at all. They didn't do it in the regular season. They usually got hammered pretty good. So it's an interesting thing, but I think they did lose a lot of that grit with the guys when they made that trade.
Lastly, this is a little bit dated, but I still want to give you a chance to talk about it because you've covered so many games over the years, and you've covered an occasional rumble as well. Any thoughts on Tyrese Halliburton's dad and his performance the other day?
Yeah. He's very lucky that he was not face to face with Xavier McDaniel or Alvin Robertson or Anthony Mason or any of those other guys back in the day who kind of had a little screw loose here or there. Because the next place Tyrese would have visited him would have been like the morgue. I mean, Giannis showed a tremendous amount of restraint. I could not believe. Well, I can. I covered a lot of basketball out in Indiana, Knicks Pacers series and Pacers, Detroit. And the security sometimes can be a kind of a joke. So to have a guy and even if they know it's his father, run out on the court, I wasn't shocked by that. That can happen in Indiana. I remember Kevin Kernan, if you remember him from the New York Post, and I were covering a Knicks Pacers game, or was it and the Pacer fans were screaming in our faces on press row because we were downstairs at that time on the court,
right? And
we were asking security to come over and take it. They didn't want to be bothered. Get these guys out of here. We couldn't be bothered. Have at it. They were. So I wasn't surprised, but it was a terrible. I don't know what the guy's thinking about. I'm glad he can't attend games or whatever, but he's lucky that he didn't meet up with the wrong guy.
Because
well,
even Bobby Portis,
really ugly.
Even Bobby Portis on the Bucks, right? Even if it had been Portis instead of Giannis, that would have been scary too.
Look at Bobby Portis, you're scared. Those eyes. So Kurt Thomas, crazy eyes, we used to call him in New York. So it was just no place for it, and terrible job by security people.
Yes,
and Giannis, hey, I give Giannis a tremendous amount of credit. That was just really unfortunate.
He was very good after the game, too, in the comments. He, is always earnest trying to answer those kinds of questions or to sort of lay out his position on that, as you know, and he was terrific. He handled himself greatly. Yeah. The one's blessing, I think, that it happened is I think it should be a wake-up call again that the league needs to do a better job controlling all family members who have to be reminded that it isn't about them right there after the game. It isn't. I know they're loved ones and all that stuff, but the access that they sometimes are given, I think out of fear, frankly, because you don't want to offend the best player. But I think that's all. That pendulum has all swung too far where it should be a reminder to say, this isn't about you right after the game. You're not going to be on the court. We'll deal with that later. We got back rooms for you. You got reception areas, but you're not. This isn't about you. This is about the players.
Yeah. And, I think the league would say, and it's true, too, this is a team thing.
Right,
You've got personnel, security, whatever. You have to be cognizant of where these family people are, especially the hotheads, whether it's, Halliburton's dad or John Morant's father gets into it, But these guys, what we're seeing is we're seeing the younger generation of players whose parents, and I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure they probably went to their AAU games.
Yes.
And they were not wallflowers.
That's it.
They were probably yelling at refs and jumping other people. And, that's just part of society, the way society's changed, too. But how about winning with humility? Does anybody want to do that anymore? I guess not.
That's asking for an awful lot, as you know, an awful lot. All right, you got 2 good games tonight, so enjoy the viewing this evening, and then we'll stay in touch as the Wolves start things out tomorrow night for game number 1. We got great angles here, man. Buckets coming back here, hated, of course.
Yeah.
Day hated, had his arm around, had Rudy by the neck. And then hammered them all on the TNT crew once they got eliminated. It was hilarious. So there's a lot of good angles here.
Is this a Curry first time in the playoffs against Minnesota?
Yes. That is. That's correct. You're right.
So you have the David Kahn angle.
Yes, we do.
Right.
That's one of the sneaky angles that's never going to be quite forgotten here. You can't really hate Curry for that. Maybe they should bring Kanzi back. Just so people can boo him, just for like pregame for a little bit of, Roman circus kind of entertainment.
I don't know, show of hands.
How about bringing back Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn?
That would be good. That would actually be really, really good. That's very, very true. Thanks as always, my friend. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Mitch.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, man. Take care.
That's Mitch Lawrence joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline, as only he can do. Johnny. We'll drill deep on this series alone with him at 5:30 because one of the interesting things, obviously, is matchups, right? Like who's going to guard who, and it looks like I wondered whether we might see a decent amount of Ant on Butler. Johnny thinks Randall is more likely to play him.
I could see that.
Which is I worry about foul trouble there a little bit, but you don't want to put your best scorer on him all the time. He thinks Ant would get some time there. Jaden generally chases Steph.
Yep.
That's the way it's going to work. And that means, by definition, then Conley will probably be the guy who has to run around chasing Buddy Hield, make sure he doesn't get loose and get hot.
Yep.
Right?
Which he's actually fairly good at.
The Wolves, obviously, the beauty of the Wolves defensively is they've got 3 or 4 wing players that are almost interchangeable to that extent. So you can give different looks and give some of those main players a break where they don't always have to concentrate on guarding the other team's best player. That's when things are going good for this team. That's maybe the Wolves' greatest strength.
How #blessed are we that we get to talk about this for at least 2 more weeks? Just like this, with guests like that.
How does Fallness feel about it?
Don't care.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.